PlayStation update for May 10th. Through a Game Informer interview, we have new details on the PlayStation exclusive Days Gone. The interview, which I will put in the description, has about 157 questions for the creative director, John Garvin. The first thing I want to highlight is the length of the game. So the game is around 30 hours long, but after the credits you can continue playing. They've already said it's an open world that you can explore, but after you finish the main story, you can go back in the world and probably choose to play different challenges. Here's a fun one. Can you swim? So the creative director says Deacon can swim, but he chooses not to. I think this is a way for the gameplay to push you into certain locations and certain situations that you can't get out of just by swimming away. And maybe, possibly, it is a story feature where certain parasites or certain creatures live in the water, and if you were to swim in it, you would either get infected or die. But what about character customization in the game? Well, according to the creative director, you cannot customize Deacon, who is the main character, Deacon St. John. In certain situations, he'll adjust his cap, but you don't have any control over what the character looks like at all. And I think one of the biggest questions and biggest comments on Days Gone is how will it stack up to a game like The Last of Us, which arguably is one of the greatest storytelling games that has come out, especially towards humanization of video game characters and how you can be involved and attached to these characters in this terrible situation. But how do those two things correlate in Days Gone and The Last of Us? How is Days Gone going to separate itself from The Last of Us? So this interview that Game Informer did is actually a video interview where they just ask question after question to the creative director, who's hilarious. I would definitely recommend watching the video. It's a lot more details. But on the topic of how they're similar, they are third-person action-adventure games based around not zombies, is what he says, because they are not zombies, they are freakers. And among these freakers, you can have animal freakers. So these not zombies, so you can have bear freakers. And these bear freakers can be bosses or they could be just regular enemies. Another thing mentioned is bike customization. So you can upgrade it as you play, which includes paint jobs, exhausts, speed boosts, and improved handling. And these mufflers will allow you to move around the world more quietly. And for those of you interested in stats, it will run at 30 frames per second on the standard PS4 and the PS4 Pro with checkerboarding up to 4K. And what about the gameplay? So the gameplay is not linear. You build up encampments and improve your bike as you collect loot and scrap. In the open world, the weather changes dynamically rather than shifting through seasons like in Naughty Dog's game, The Last of Us. Other thing that it was mentioned in the interview, there are dogs in the game. Don't know if you can actually have a dog friend, but they are in there to gawk at cuteness. But that's about it for this episode of the PlayStation Update Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. You can find our website, RageStart.com. You can follow us on Twitter at RageStartNet. You can follow us on Facebook, Facebook.com/RageStart. Leaving a review is a great way to help support us. Another great way is through Patreon, Patreon.com/RageStart. Through Patreon, you can get early access to new podcasts on the network, as well as some exclusive content. Definitely check that out in the description below. I've been your host, Sage Goodwin. Thank you all so much for listening. PlayStation Update is here for your grind.